power cables down in water, in flood areas, etc., etc. Can you give us some basics there of what to do and what not to do when people do wake up tomorrow, do emerge from their homes tomorrow? Not many people will be sleeping tonight. When they do emerge from their homes tomorrow and they start poking around it, are there things that they can look out for? Where can they go? What can they look for? Signs, clues as to dangers that electricity, fallen cables, etc. can present to them?
I think the best advice is to follow your reporter, Matt. Don't go out. If you have to go out for whatever reason, stay away from any fallen power lines. You're not going to know whether they're live. They might look as if they're dead. They're just lying on the ground. Don't go near them. We have no idea how much tree, how much vegetation is going to be on the ground, how much debris has flown through and tangled our lines. So just don't go near those lines. They could be live and they're lethal.
How can you give us a bit more on that, mate? I mean, how far can some power surges arc, and how far can spark jump? How close can you get without knowing and then suddenly be zapped? Can you give us some practical details about that?
I can't give you distances, Chris. I mean, that's something for our technical experts, but suffice it to say that, you know,
just stay away.
If they're down on the ground, I mean, just don't go near them. I mean, keep a very, very clear distance. Don't go anywhere near them.
Yeah.
I mean, we've had people who have done that in the past and have had troubles. You just don't go anywhere near them, particularly if they're in water. Just stay right out of, don't go into the water. Stay very, very clear, very, very wide berth.
Okay, mate, and just quickly, you've got, I presume you've got teams of staff around the place waiting to emerge and get into this job. Give us some detail there about how quickly you plan to sort of get your men out on the ground and get these assessments done.
We've been gearing up for this ever since the threat was first announced. So we've got crews on standby. A lot of them are in Rockhampton, which is a fair way from the, you know, the disaster zone. So as soon as it's safe for them to get out there, they'll be there. But we'd have something like between 800 and 1,000 guys, you know, ready to go. We've also had some help from Energex, our sister distribution network in Brisbane, who have got people on standby as well. So as soon as our assessors say that we can get in there and start repairing the damage, that's where we'll be.
All right, Stocky, good to talk to you tonight. Many thanks for your help. Cheers.
Thanks, Chris. See you. Bye.
Now, Sunrise Weather presenter Grant Denyer is on the ground in Innisfail. Grant, that is, as we've been saying, right in the firing line. What are you seeing? What are you hearing?
Really, though, we're getting our strongest gusts that we've had all night. We've sort of been camped here and too afraid to sort of leave the front of the building in which we're all sitting in. So we're barely just poking our toes out now, just having a look and trying to get a couple of shots. Just trying to observe the scenes at the moment. Intense strong winds. We're just sitting right on the north side of the eye that's crossed over Mission Beach. So we're copying sort of the full brunt of things now. The great news about what we can see here, whilst it's still terrifying and the noise is like a jet engine sitting next to your ears, just grinding up and powering up. The main street is looking fantastically intact at the moment. A lot of debris from a lot of shrubbery and trees, etc. But you've got to remember that there's been the whole nation's hands have climbed all over this main street and repaired it after Tropical Cyclone Larry. So it's in very good nick to cope with these conditions. So it's looking good. My real genuine concerns are with the timber houses that sit on the ridge tops in the neighbouring suburbs. About 10,000 people live in this city, and I'm sure that we're going to see a fair bit of destruction. The degree we're unsure of yet, but super strong winds.
Grant, tell me, we spoke earlier with Paul Carrick, making the point that Innisfail obviously copped the brunt of Cyclone Larry in 2006, and the infrastructure, something like 80% of buildings were wiped away. I'm presuming that the buildings that replaced them were built to code, were built with the necessary fortifications to make sure that they could withstand cyclones. Your reporting to us tonight that it looks like they have indeed withstood so far the effects of this cyclone. Do you know that in the suburbs beyond that main street where you are, the houses, domestic, residential, were also built the same way?
Yeah, I know that there's been a lot of, for those that have lost roofs, a lot of fresh roofings going on. For those that lost buildings, much stronger buildings now stand in their place. So people have learned their lessons, they've taken the chance. Of course, the building codes from the 60s that have been improved dramatically for tropical cyclone strength and rating. So houses prior to that were lost were certainly brought up to spec. So we can only hope that the suburbs are like the main street that we're standing in now, and it's looking like, while being a little bit bruised, it's definitely intact. We know, or we're getting message that there's a hotel or two that's missing a roof. There were reports a little earlier on that the evacuation centre had lost its roof. That is not true. The evacuation centre, while the alarms are ringing constantly in that building because it's getting battered, it sort of stands on its own about 3 or 4 stories high and is right in the direct draft of the wind. It's coppering a hammering that the couple of hundred people are sitting inside are indeed safe in that venue. So we're hoping that we might get a break in the winds with the eye of the storm to try and assess the situation. We just haven't had that because we're on the north side of the eye. We haven't had the break. So it's still too rough, way too wild for us to go and survey the situation properly, mate. So just fingers crossed for everybody.
Grant, while we've got you to water, the storm surge, the predicted high tide, the clashing of the two, any evidence there of any flooding?
We can't get any confirmation of that either, mate. It's been way too wild to drive around. There's been no emergency services that have been anywhere. We tried to contact some fellow members in different hotels. We have crew member in a different hotel on a low-level lying area. We don't believe they've been flooded, but that doesn't mean that there hasn't been inundation. It's so difficult to see. It's so difficult to get word. There's not a passing police car. There's not a passing SES officer. There is no one to ask. You're on your own. We're barely just scratching by with power. It sort of flickers on and off. It's super eerie, and we're too afraid to leave our shop front, to be honest, mate. We have this perched position that has a bunker underneath it that we thought would be safe enough for us, and we've barely stepped 1 metre outside. Such is the strength at the moment. It's too frightening.
No, and a good strategy to keep going with, mate. So you're in a shop front. Whose shop, and are you with them? How are they coping with all of this?
Vivacious Boutique, mate. I'm sure it's a place that you've been to many times before here in Innisfail. Picked up a lovely something for your lady. It's actually empty. The very kind shop owner was doing a reno. This is a shop that's been completely destroyed in tropical cyclone Larry, so it's been rebuilt, reinforced with concrete. We felt safe enough in it. We spent a couple of hours taping up the windows to try and make it safe for ourselves in case they blew in. And it's held up very, very well. So we've had the wind to our back for a little bit. We know, as is the case with cyclones, as these things swing around, we've got the front, we're going to get the backside. That wind's going to be blowing straight into our front. We're not looking forward to that because the wind reports have been up around the sort of 260, 270, 280 mark, and we believe that might blow the front of our shop in. So we're waiting for it to turn. It's turning dramatically now, and that will be a bit of a scary couple of hours ahead.
Grant, while you were there today,